$40 versus $160. I have the Airhouse Barefoot shoe from Amazon, and we have the vivobarefoot Primus Lite 3.5. Now, what am I going to be doing with both these shoes? Because I have one on each of my feet right now. I am going to be shuffling around my neighborhood on the concrete and the asphalt to see which of these soles breaks down first. Is $40 better than the $160? I have my theory as to which is going to last longer, but I am curious in the comments right now, before you watch the rest of this video and all the testing, let me know in the comments below, number one, if this video is going to work, and then number two, which shoe you think is going to last longer. Now, why am I doing this video? Well, when you look around the shoe review space, you see a lot of folks doing these fancy tests with grinders and tools and stuff. And that's cool and it's flashy, but that's not how people are physically wearing these shoes. And so my thought is, look, I'm gonna be a little bit primitive and meathead here and just physically shuffle around in these shoes to test their durability, but that's how most people are going to be wearing these shoes. Tools do not necessarily reflect how we walk, run, and train, and the friction we're gonna be putting onto outsoles and different surfaces. So this is my way to kind of replicate that at a more exaggerated rate, and we'll see if it works. If it works, awesome, we'll have some great findings at the end of this video. If it fails, I still plan to share this video because at least we'll all get a good laugh and we could be like, that was kind of an idiot test, dude. But all that to say, let's get to shuffling. All right, so now two more things before we start. I'm gonna be timing it so you guys will have an exact idea of how long I'm physically shuffling. To be quite honest with you, I hope this doesn't take too long. I have a lot of stuff to do today. And then also, I wanna show number two, how I will be shuffling. So the idea is to dig into the forefoot with each shuffle. Now, I know that is obviously not how people are exactly walking, but I do think it'll be the best means for me to be able to, one, modify my stride to make sure they're consistent, and number two, make sure I'm putting enough force, because it's pretty easy to feel if you're shuffling harder into one leg or the other, for example. And so now that we have defined the metric of testing the length of time that this is going to take for durability purposes, and we have defined how I will be testing, now let's finally go. So here is the idea of what the shuffles will look like. They're going to be little short shuffles like this, and we are just going to keep walking around the neighborhood until we hit a point of breakdown on either of these shoes, or until the outsoles fade enough to where they're going to be pretty much non-usable on certain surfaces, or you'll start having more slip issues, because that is what's most important here. The surfaces in my neighborhood vary between this kind of like blacktop asphalt and this more grittier concrete material. But my gosh, this is going to take so long, I feel. I'm gonna be doing this for like an hour. I'm interested to see how sore I'm gonna be, to be honest. I feel like my feet and ankles are gonna be pretty sore after all of this. Okay, here's the more like grittier concrete surface. I'm gonna step over these rocks. This is really grippy here. So this should actually cause the most breakdown in theory, because there's more ridged, rocky materials to be having more friction and more of those sharper edges jetting into the outsoles of these shoes. My neighbors are driving by and definitely like, what the hell is this dude doing? Why is he walking like this so slow? Whew, here we go. Toes are honestly feeling it. They keep getting jammed up into the end of the toe box, so I had to crank the shoes even tighter to make sure they weren't sliding around, because that could cause a little bit of an issue of how that friction and the force is actually translated into the outsole. So both shoes now are pretty dang tight to where I'm not sliding, so we're getting a more accurate test too of the sole. I think better hitting that surface and being more equal on both of my left and right feet. I'll also be checking in every 30 minutes to see how the soles are doing, and that way we can see like a timeline of breakdown if there is any timeline. Hopefully, again, this doesn't go crazy long, and if the breakdown's faster, maybe we'll actually do like 15 or 20 minute intervals. But either way, I want to make sure that we're tracking progress as we go. My calves are on fire. All right, we just passed the 30-minute mark. Let's go ahead and take a look at these shoes. Oh, sit down for this. All right, so here we have the Amazon. Got some notable tread there, fading. So this is pretty much all gone right here at the forefoot. Now let's go ahead and look at the outsole of the Primus. And similarly, losing that outsole tread here. And we're starting to have some breakdown there with the vivobarefoot branding up here on the forefoot too. All right, well, both shoes are showing signs of breakdown, and now I feel like it's really a race to which is going to kind of implode first and show some sock. I'll report back when that either happens or we hit the next 30. I messed up. I went down the big hill in my neighborhood. Coming back up it has expedited the calf burn. Terrible idea. Staying in the flat ground for the rest of this. There's no way I can do that hill again and still run tomorrow. Look how pretty the leaves are. Leaves are starting to turn. I feel like we have like 2 more weeks until these leaves are all gone, and then it's just sadness. All right, we're about 45 minutes in, and you can feel that the tread is gone on both of these shoes. They're a lot more slick when I'm hitting that forefoot. I can feel it because it's accelerating a little bit more when I'm hitting the ground. So I feel like it's just a matter of time until one of these guys fully breaks and we got some sock coming through. Stay tuned. All right, we just passed an hour. Looking at the Amazon shoe here. It's completely faded here. Completely faded, and it's pretty warm. My gosh, it's so warm. All right, vivobarefoot, and equally faded up there on the forefoot. Completely faded. This is completely breaking down too. That little red blurb there. And then over here on the Amazon model, I don't know, it's a race to the bottom right now, y'all. I will say something I've noticed is the foot here on the left side, the vivobarefoot model, is feeling it a lot more because of just how much more thin that sole is compared to this Amazon model, which I think is to be expected when you look at the price points. Yo, I took a quick break just so we're on the same page here, and I want to obviously share everything I'm doing. We are at an hour 25. That is where I took a break. Came in to get a snack, 2 yogurts, these 000 Oikos. They're the GOAT. I'm gonna eat a banana. And then I also was just really craving a Diet Coke, so I'll grab one before I go back out and shuffle. We'll have a Diet Coke and shuffle around. But it's actually been kind of nice because I've been able to catch up on a few emails and also watch a couple videos that I need to watch for my editor as I shuffle around the neighborhood, and we will get back to it. But it's been a pretty productive hour and a half despite my legs being constantly pumped and my calves burning. I just see some ninja stuff right here. Hitting the garage door with a bag of trash. I'm gonna grab a Diet Coke from the fridge and jump that garage door. Let's go. Go, 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 go. Fuck. Oh, no. I didn't make it. I didn't make it. I'm an idiot. I just accidentally reset the timer. So now we're gonna have to add an hour 25 to whatever this is. I'm an absolute moron. What the fudge am I doing? I guess this is being tired and now getting back into it. But my goodness. Got the Diet Coke. God damn it. All right, we are technically an hour and 35 minutes in. The RS shoe is completely bald across the forefoot here. It's feeling actually really thin. I don't know how much more that has. And the vivobarefoot model also is great, but I will say, I feel like this model is rubber because it's a little bit more dense. It's breaking down a little bit less fast because it's not as soft, so it's not as catching as much. But we shall see who breaks first. All right, so we are about 2 hours in. Let's look at the data. All right, so the RS shoe, this is like feeling very thin. Like that is a lot more thin than when it started. The rest of the tread is starting to fade. Let's look at the Vivo. Vivo, how you looking? Kind of the same, honestly. But we are starting to have more fade here on the lateral and medial side of the forefoot. But it still doesn't even feel as thin now. You know, it's funny. Like this out of the box feels thinner than the RS, but because this material here, like you can see like just how like soft it's gotten versus the Vivo. There's still some structure to it. It's very interesting. All right, so we are at 2.5 hours. Again, reset the damn timer at 1:25, and then it's 1:05 right there. And I'm gonna stop it there because this is actually starting to get painful, my feet and ankles, and I feel like we have a really good test right now of tread patterns. So check out the vivobarefoot here, cross the forefoot, and then coming up into that big toe area, we're starting to have some tread. The midfoot and heel look pretty consistent because there was some friction here, but they didn't really fade right away. And then looking at the RS Barefoot shoe, the forefoot is almost entirely bald. Like we still have a little bit of bump up here and tread up here, but it's pretty much entirely bald. And then one thing that's really interesting and different on this shoe is you're starting to have more tread fading through the midfoot and on the edge of the heel back here. That is not the case with the vivobarefoot. And my theory, before going into this video, because if we had to pick one that has more tread obviously fading, it's going to be the RS Barefoot shoe. I thought that this shoe would break down fastest at a faster rate. Like, you could even see like there's a little bit of a divot here in the forefoot rubber where it's starting to fade too. But my thought is that because this outsole is thicker and it's that stickier rubber feel, that it was going to fade faster. There's going to be a bit more friction that's going to catch a little bit more. And my theory, I feel like, did pan out. This forefoot is really thin. Like, I don't think it would need that much more to break through this. Probably like another hour and a half of shuffling, and I just don't got that in my feet and ankles. And then the vivobarefoot, my theory was, because this outsole, despite having a lower stack height than the Era shoe, it runs a little bit more dense. And so once this tread faded, my theory was that this would be a little bit more slick and it actually wouldn't take as much breakdown at a faster rate like the Era shoe. And it seemed to be pretty on the money. Like, generally this Primus outsole, it will be the first thing to fade, this low pattern tread for folks, and that is a gripe that a lot of folks have. But I rarely see folks say that they've ran entirely through the sole of their vivobarefoot shoes. And I think an important thing to note about this is, like, you could easily say like, oh, $40 performs just as good as $160 to an extent. But I think what you have to consider is that vivobarefoot, I feel like, are pretty good about replacing your shoes, whereas in the Aris model, that's just never going to happen. It's too cheap. Like, why would they replace this shoe? I don't think you would be able to get a new model after an extended amount of time unless you were in that warranty period, whereas vivobarefoot, they actually are pretty good about honoring if your shoes break down. So I will give them that. They are way more expensive, and so if you are on the fence and you are nervous, like, the $40 shoe, it honestly did a pretty good job. It didn't break down to where this rubber completely imploded and I was feeling on my sock. So you should be fine with this model. If you don't want to drop for a more pricey model, just remember that this will, I think, fade faster. And you could see, like, this doesn't have as much integrity anymore. Like, it's pretty easy to poke in and bounce, which wasn't the case before. And then if it's cool, because if you watch this, even though it's a lower stack height, there's less play. It's just really interesting seeing. But either way, both shoes had their tread fade. vivobarefoot was a little bit less. This RS model came a little bit quicker and at a more aggressive rate. And I feel like if I kept going, this model would, I think, break through first, just based off of how this rubber is responding to touch. And just when you feel it, like, you can feel this rubber sole and how thin it is right now. And the vivobarefoot, like, you can't do that with the sole as well. So let me know in the comments, did the results surprise you, or were you kind of expecting the $40 shoe to, accelerate a little bit quicker compared to the vivobarefoot? I'm honestly pretty stoked on the results. I'm happy that the vivobarefoot model held up the way it did, and I'm also happy that the $40 shoe didn't completely implode. And so I think you could buy with confidence with both models. Just remember that if you want to go with a brand that's probably going to honor their product longer, vivobarefoot will probably be your best bet. But I'm going to wrap this one up. I need to get back to work. My ankles and feet are sore. My calves are sore. I will see you guys in the next one. If you have questions, comments, or concerns on this video, drop a comment down below. And honestly, I think moving forward for reviews, I might start adding in like a 30-minute shuffle test in every review just to see how outsoles fare. Let me know if you think that's a good idea, because I feel like a 30-minute test is doable for every shoe. It's not so time consuming, because I obviously can't do 2.5 hours of shuffling for every single shoe. That'd be crazy. But let me know if you want to see that done, because it would be an easy test to start implementing.